بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم نور قلوبنا بالعلم وزين أخلاقنا بالحلم وافتح بيننا وبين قومنا بالحق وأنت خير الفاتحين. ثم أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. وطبتم وطاب ممشاكم وتبوأتم من الجنة منزلا بإذن الله. ثم أما بعد. As it was announced, our topic for tonight and for tomorrow as well, after Isha, will be interest-bearing transactions in the US, and we will be touching lightly on principles of Islamic finance. We will be having two parts. First part is tonight, and the second one will be tomorrow, inshallah, after Isha. This presentation usually takes from 6 to 7 hours. When I give it to students of knowledge in a class setting, it takes 6 to 7 hours actual lecturing. However, because 7 hours is not doable, we'll go with the short version tonight and just make it 45 minutes up to 1 hour, inshallah, and then we'll open the floor for question and answer. We'll be covering tonight, inshallah, the basic rules of Ribe. And tomorrow we'll be touching on the practical examples. What are the most frequently asked questions about Ribe? Let me start just quickly. I might skip some of the slides, so please excuse me because the time is very limited. By the way, and I got my dinner and I took a nap, so I'm good from now until tomorrow morning. If I can have any partners for 7 hours, please raise your hand. I'm serious. 7 hours? You need to bring 2 witnesses that you can make. Let's go with the short version just quickly. Where does Riba stand in Islam? We need first of all to identify the severity of this sin. So to be as alert as possible from the consequences of being involved in Riba. If you read the whole Quran from the beginning until the end, you will not find the sin or ma'asiyah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is declaring war against those who are involved in, except this particular ma'asiyah. He said, فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا فَأَذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. If you are not willing to quit, then you are waging a war against Allah and His Messenger. Everybody knows that if you wage a war against Allah and His Messenger, who's going to win and who's going to lose? It is one of the sins that causes a curse from Allah and from His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 2 different authentic narrations for this hadith. لَعَنَ اللَّهُ آكِلَ الرِّبَ وَمُؤْكِلَهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is cursing the one who consume riba, devour it, take it from other people. وَمُؤْكِلَهُ, the one who give it to other people. وَكَاتِبَهُ, the one who document and write down the riba transaction. And not only that, but the 2 witnesses who are just getting involved and facilitate the riba transactions are involved in the la'na, the curse of Allah Azza wa Jal. In the other hadith, la'ana Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So it causes a curse from Allah Azza wa Jal and His Prophet alayhi salatu wa sallam. By the way, some people think that the la'na or the severity of this sin is exclusively for those who take advantage of other people and take it from others. Those who devour riba, the stronger party or the strong party who financially abuse other people and take their money, while the one who pays riba to other people is the one who is weak and abused. Okay, so the la'na does not cover him. Well, the Prophet ﷺ have said otherwise, and just to make it clear, he said, "Hum sawa," they are equal, they are the same. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying that the one who devour it and the one who give it to other people are the same. We cannot say otherwise. However, there are some particular cases, very, very few cases, where it is imaginable for a Muslim to be in a desperate circumstances or situation where he has no choice but to borrow with riba. It might happen. It might happen that you go through some financial difficulties, you cannot find any other source but to go to the closest bank and borrow with interest. It might happen. You might be excused. However, there is no imaginable even way that a Muslim will be in a circumstances where he has no choice but to devour and to eat riba from other people. This is the only difference. When it comes to la'na and cursing from Allah SWT and His Prophet ﷺ, they are the same. قَالَ هُمْ سَوَاء. It is one of the 7 major sins in Islam, where the Prophet ﷺ warned his Sahaba by saying, اجتنبوا السبع الموبقات, avoid the 7 destructive major sins. They said, what are those sins, O Prophet of Allah? He mentioned, he counted 7, and one of them is aklu al-riba, devouring riba. So this is where riba stand in Islam. Is it difficult to avoid, practically speaking, for people living in this society? Yes, it is. We need to be honest with ourselves. The dominating economic system is the capitalist one. The global capitalist economic system is the one that is dominating the economic system, I would say almost global wide, with very, very few exceptions here and there. And dealing with riba, with interest, is a built-in component in this system. So much so that the capitalist people, who practice and who put the theory for this system, they cannot imagine how can you finance without lending with riba. It's something even beyond their imagination. How come that you can give other people, for financing purposes, without lending them with interest? Well, Islamic finance actually is saying otherwise, and inshallah we'll be touching on this topic soon. However, we need to make it clear that yes, it is difficult to avoid. However, there is no excuse. There is no excuse. And by the way, if you live in this society or you go somewhere else, it's almost the same system, with some exceptions. Some, like countries in the Muslim world, alhamdulillah, they started implementing and executing Islamic finance-based institutions like Islamic mortgage companies and Islamic banking system. You will find some alternative here and there. But believe it or not, even those companies who claim to be Sharia compliant 100%, they are not, because they are a part again of the dominating or dominant capitalist economic system. So if you try to engage or to incorporate Islamic finance with the capitalist one, you will find out that there is severe incompatibility between the two. So it's really hard, to put them together and to make sure that the Islamic finance is functioning well while it is a part of a non-Islamic finance system. No excuse in a sense that some people think that living outside the Muslim world might be a legitimate excuse for us to get involved in riba, because the Islamic alternative is not there. And every now and then we hear a fatwa that is attributed to the school of thought of Al-Imam Al-A'zam, the greatest Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, where it is clearly indicated that that التعامل بين المسلم وغير المسلم getting lost here. التعامل بين المسلم وغير المسلم بالعقود الفاسدة في دار الحرب حرام. مباح, I'm sorry. The transaction in any void, invalid transaction between a Muslim and non-Muslim outside the land of Islam is permissible. Now this is a fatwa that is a part of this madhab, and I think it is attributed to the Imam himself, Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu wa rahimahullah, that transacting between a Muslim and non-Muslim in any void transaction outside the land of Islam is permissible. First of all, from a very pure fiqh perspective, this fatwa is not correct. And when we say it is not correct, we do not expose any disrespect to the greatest Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. We do respect him. Allah SWT knows that we respect our Imams in the same way that we respect our parents, and even more than that. However, Imams are not infallible. They are a human being, and they have some mistakes and some correct opinions and some wrong opinions within their madhab. Otherwise, why we have 4 different madhab? If every single madhab is 100% correct, then why we have differences between different madhab? Second of all, even if this fatwa is correct, which is not the case, it is not applicable. It is not applicable for Muslims living in the US, because they mentioned clearly that Darul Harb, transacting between a Muslim and a non-Muslim in the land of war. In the land of war. Sometimes they, in this madhab, they use the land of kufr and the land of war like interchangeably. Any place outside the land of Islam is by default Darul Kufr, the land of kufr, disbelief, and the land of war at the same time. But the fatwa that is prevailing within this madhab is that transacting between a Muslim and a non-Muslim in any void transaction in the land of war is permissible. So even assuming that this fatwa is correct, it is not applicable for Muslims living in the US, because US for us, it's not Darul Harb, it's not the land of war. We are a part of this society. We live here, we enjoy living in this society, and we have a covenant between us and the government here that, well, not we only, everybody lives here in this society has no choice but to abide with the rules and with the regulations and with the law of the land. A part of it that you should not harm anyone in the same way that others should not harm you. So again, this fatwa is not applicable for Muslims living in the US, assuming its authenticity, although it is not. What are the transactions that inshallah we'll be touching on tonight and tomorrow? Take for example bank loan. Whether you talk about personal loan or investment loan, going to a conventional bank and just applying for a loan, is it haram or halal? We need to know. Late fees or late charges, whenever you have to pay more than the amount that you owe to the other party, is that riba or not? Credit card issue, and it's a very controversial issue. Credit card, whether it is the regular one or the secured credit card or the security deposit credit card, and I will explain the difference between the two. Versus holding a debit card, is it the same like credit card? Saving account. Are you allowed to open a saving account for saving purposes, for investment purposes, for saving your money purposes? Versus checking account, financing. Is it okay to go through an installment and to pay a down payment, although you can afford paying in full? And how does the finance system work here in the US? Lease to purchase, well, financing could be applicable for like buying vehicles, cars, buying houses, furniture, anything that involves financing. Financing and means that you go with an installment. You have $5,000 to buy a car, yet you choose to pay only $500 per month. Just to save your money for different purposes. Is going through financing an installment or payment plan, is it permissible or not? Lease to purchase option, is it haram or halal? Charging the employee when withholding from his withdrawing from his 401k plan. If you choose to withdraw from your 401k, they give you two options, either to borrow from the account or to withdraw from the account. Is borrowing from the account permissible or not? Investing, by the way, investing in the 401k, what are the halal options and what are the non-halal or the haram options? Buying a house via conventional mortgage, is it haram or halal? What does mortgage mean in the US? Comparison to the Islamic definition of mortgage, which is rahan, that has been mentioned in the Quran and practiced in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Late registration fees, and I will explain what does it mean if you have to pay it. For those who have been involved in like building their wealth from haram sources, and then they repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after their wealth is already established and built, do they have to get rid of all what they collected in the past, or there is a way for them to legitimize what has been collected before? Monetary gifts versus non-monetary gifts. If you go shopping and you get some cash back or points or $50 deposit in a checking account, whatever the gift might be, saving a plan and while using your credit card, cashing checks for those who are involved in this business. Can you take a check of $100 and give your client $95 immediately. Is this riba or not? Warranty purchases, is it a kind of commercial insurance? If the answer is yes, is it haram or halal? If you work in car dealership business or in real estate, where to draw a line between finding the right house for your client versus helping him getting finance for his house? Okay, what is halal, what's haram, where to stop and limit yourself, and to say, well, from this point on, you just take it, you try to get your loan in the way that you want. I cannot help you because that is haram. Okay. Distance forex and foreign currency trading, that's a source of income for some people. They do currency exchange online. They call it distance forex nowadays. It's a well-established business. It has a lot of detailed technicalities and questions that we need to answer. Membership fees, if you have to pay, okay, for a certain club or a certain shopping center to be able, or like to have an access or to be a member of that club, as they say, is that haram or halal? Sam's Club, for example, you cannot go shopping without having a membership fees. Is it haram or halal to pay? Does it have anything to do with riba? If you get some points back or some cash back, or you save some money out of shopping in Sam's Club, will that be counted, as riba or not? Student loans, whether the subsidized or the unsubsidized loan, that is a very hot topic. People need to know and answer. Moving on, riba has a meaning in Arabic language, and from this point on, by the way, I will be just explaining the very fundamental rules of riba, the fiqh foundation of riba. If we comprehend, if we understand the foundation of riba, different kinds of riba, definition of riba, the transactions who are subject to riba, we will be able to identify and just make a fatwa or pass a judgment or a fatwa in any single transaction. If you have the tools of ijtihad, if you know the meaning of riba and the different kinds of riba, whenever you see a transaction in front of you, you can say that this transaction involves riba or not. This part actually is 15-20 minutes. It could be, honestly, it could be so boring for some of us, because it's a fiqh in nature, and the fiqh is not that easy topic. However, we need to be patient. Again, if you master the foundation of riba, you will be able to move on by yourself. You don't need to ask the sheikh or the imam regarding any transaction. You can just be your own mufti and issue a fatwa regarding a transaction. You know that it has riba or it does not have riba. Without mastering the fiqh foundation of riba, you won't be able to identify any haram or any riba involved in the transaction. With this in mind, riba has a technical definition and has a linguistic definition. The linguistic definition is, as you see, it is excess or addition or increase or to add, to multiply or to add or to put something on top of something else is called riba. And this meaning actually is included or captured in the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَا وَيُرْبِ الصَّدَقَاتِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would demolish, drawing the barakah and the blessing from those who are dealing with riba, with the actual riba. وَيُرْبِ الصَّدَقَاتِ, as well as he will be multiplying or increasing the reward of those who pay in charity. يُرْبِ الصَّدَقَاتِ. Here is the word yurbi. Yurbi actually is a derivative from riba. Riba means ziyada, multiplication, addition, excess, etc. Now the technical definition, which is the important one, is as you see. It has three different components. الزيادة أو التأخير. It is an increase or delay. How many kinds of riba? Major kinds of riba. How many kinds of riba? We have two. الزيادة أو التأخير. It is either increase or delay. Increase or delay. The second component of the definition, في أموال محدودة, in a specific assets. So only certain items, certain merchandise, goods, whatever you want to call them, are subject to riba. If you trade In food, as I will be explaining, any kind of food, or trade with money, cash money, or personal check, or cashier check, or debit card, or credit card, any kind of payment method, as long as it refers to money, actual real money, cash money, then that is included. So amwal al-mahduda means specific assets only, who are subject to riba, who are called al-amwal al-ribawiyya, like the usurious items. Okay, so if you transact, if you trade in something else that is not subject to, well, that is not food, any kind of food, that's not kind of money, any kind of money, then those items are not subject to riba to start with. So you can just move on with the transaction, while having a peace of mind, as they say, because riba cannot affect this transaction. Simple as that. And not only that, في معاملات محدودة. In certain transactions, not every transaction you get involved in, a business transaction, is subject to riba. We have only and only two different transactions, only and only two. So we have two kinds of riba: ziyada wa ta'khir. Okay, that's increase or delay. And the amwal al-mahduda, the specific items or assets are again two: food or money. Muamalat al-mahduda is the same. We have only and only two transactions in Islam who are subject to riba. Those two transactions are عقد البيع وعقد الدين, the sale contract and the loan contract. If there is any loan contract involved in any transaction, you need to be careful, because loan contract is subject to riba. If there is any sale transaction, in any transaction, part of it, the whole transaction is a sale one, then we need to be careful, because عقد البيع, the sale contract, is subject to riba. It doesn't mean that every sale transaction or sale contract is a riba one. It means that riba might affect or afflict that contract in the same way that riba might affect the loan contract. If there is no loan involved and there is no sale involved, you can just move on smoothly without even thinking about riba. While having a peace of mind, you just move on. You're good to go, as they say. As long as there is no sale contract, as long as there is no loan contract, loan, dain, qard, then the transaction basically is not subject to riba. This actually needs more elaboration. I want you just to remember the definition one more time. Az-ziyadatu wa at-ta'khir is an increase or delay. Those are the two major kinds of riba. In specific assets, food and money, in specific transactions, sale and loan, 2 by 2 by 2. Now the first kind of riba is called riba al-fadl. Riba al-fadl, the riba of increase. A good definition for riba al-fadl, as you see: increase awarded to one party in a sale or a service or exchange or a loan contract without providing any equivalent consideration to the other party. This is a very good definition of riba al-fadl, and it is broken down to different scenarios. And certain like ways of interacting, or transacting with people might entail riba al-fadl. Increase awarded to one party in a sale contract. You bought a car for $5,000. You bought a car for $5,000, and the seller told you that you have 6 months to pay me in full. If you pay the $5,000 within 6 months, there is no consequences, there is no interest. If you failed, if you defaulted, then you have to pay me extra. You have to pay me extra. It will not be $5,000 anymore. It's going to be $5,500. That is riba al-fadl. $5,000. Whatever you owe the other party will be paid $5,500. The $5,000 is the halal price, and the $500 is the haram riba that is paid. Service. Every single month you receive 6, 7, 8 different utility bills, between water and electricity and cell phone and you name it. Every single utility bill has a certain amount that has to be paid, and it is clearly mentioned that the due date is, let's say, January 20th of 2016. After the due date, it's gonna be $110 instead of $100. Okay, this is just an example of the late fees, which is a kind of riba al-fadl. So instead of paying the utility company $100, it has to be paid $110. Okay, the 100 is the legitimate payment, and the $10 extra is the haram one. Exchange. You exchange, for example, let's say a car for some furniture. Just an example. There is no money involved in it. You exchange a car for some furniture with one condition, that if the other party who's supposed to pay you or to give you the car, if he did not pay you the car and give you the car on time, there will be some late fees. That's an exchange. You give a commodity for a commodity. You give a merchandise or goods for some goods. If it involves like paying more money, although it is an exchange, which is a kind of sale, in reality, then that will be counted as riba. Or a loan contract. Loan contract is clear. It goes without saying. You give someone $1,000, okay, and the riba could riba al-fadl has more than one scenario here. You give him 1,000. You tell him, okay, you have 6 months grace period. If you pay me within 6 months, then there is no riba. After the 6 months, there will be some late fees, some riba. Call it whatever you want. If you charge him more than the 1,000, that will be counted as riba. This is one scenario. And the other one, you tell him from day one that you take those $1,000 with 5% interest, and you have 6 months to pay me. Both of them are haram, the first one and the second one. But the haram of the second scenario is more prohibited than the first one, because riba is involved in it from day one. When you give him or her the money, you know that you will be getting paid more than what you gave him, and he knows that he has to pay you way more than what he has taken from you. While in the first scenario, he might default, he might not. He might give you the $1,000 back as is, and he might default or delay his payment. Thus, will be subject to riba. Again, both of them are haram, but the second one is more prohibited than the first one because it involves riba from day one, while the other one, the riba is possible. I mean, he might fall in riba, he might not. Those are like very simple examples of riba al-fadl. A certain amount of money has to be paid more than, because of any reason. Increase awarded to one party in a sale or a service or exchange or loan contract, without providing any equivalent consideration to the other party. You might argue that by saying, well, there is an equivalent consideration other party, which is the time, or what they call it in economics, they call it the opportunity cost. I mean, you delayed the business of someone, you did not pay him on time. Have you paid him on time, he would have been able to make some money out of investing that money. So I mean, you caused some loss for him. Because of the loss, because of the delay, because of not paying on time, he deserved to be compensated. I mean, you can argue that. I can argue that back by saying, well, time does have value in Islam in certain cases, and it does not have value in some other cases. In some particular cases, it does have value, and in some cases, it does not have value. Let me elaborate more, because inshallah, this will make our lecture tomorrow easier. I have a car that's worth $5,000. Okay, and I offered you this car by saying, okay, this car is for $5,000, and you said, you know what, I do not have $5,000. I said, okay, how about $6,000 for 1 year? Okay, you scratch your head and you said, you know what, I cannot afford it. I said, okay, that's fine. It's $7,000 for 2 years, and they said, okay, that sounds good. Now the question here, can I ask for more price because of the time? Does time have value here in this particular scenario? As long as you are still within the negotiation, the bargaining stage, we did not close. Can we negotiate? Yes, we can. Can I ask for $6,000 for my car? Yes, I can. If my car worth only $5,000, do I have the right to ask for $6,000 cash? Yes, I can. Yeah, I mean, this is the car. You take it or you leave it, as they say. Well, if I'm allowed to ask for $6,000 cash, although it does not worth more than $5,000, why cannot I ask for $6,000 for 1 year? Or you know what? Let's make it 6,000. Let's make it 6,000. And then after we closed, you said, you know what? I cannot pay you the whole amount in full. can you do me a favor? I said, yes. He said, okay, can you break it down to 12 months, make it an installment? And I said, yes, why not? Okay, so we ended up with having $5,000 cash, $6,000 for 1 year, $7,000 for 2 years. Let's go with the second scenario. That's $6,000 for 1 year. Does the time have value here? Yes, it does. If I insisted in taking $5,000 only, I would have been able to make maybe $1,000 throughout the whole year if I put my money in some other investment. Is that correct? Now, I'm sacrificing the other opportunity, okay, and just giving you the car and waiting for 1 complete year until I get my money back. Now, this is the opportunity cost. This is where we do acknowledge the value of the time. Now, the other scenario where time does not have any value. Once we close in this particular example, we closed. Close means close, that's it. The price is fixed and the duration of the transaction or the payment is fixed, everything is fixed. The monthly payment is fixed. Once we close, we said that this car is for $6,000 for 1 year. After the closing, we cannot make any late payments or late fees. I cannot say, well, you have the first 5 days of each month to pay. If you default, then there will be some late fees. It's not riba, it's late fees. Well, it is riba. Call it whatever you want, it is riba. Okay? So this is just, to make it clear that time does have value in certain cases, and once the agreement is closed, the sale contract is closed, then time does not have value. It has to be $6,000 for 1 year. No increase and no decrease. If you pay me earlier, okay, I cannot commit to making a discount for you. If you delay your payment, I cannot charge you extra money. Because extra money for delay is equivalent to less charge for early payment. هذه بتلك. So that is riba al-fadl. And we have another kind of riba that's called riba al-nasi'ah or riba al-nasa. It should be al-nasi'ah, maybe more accurate to call it riba al-nasi'ah. Delaying the submission of particular items in a sale contract. What does this mean? Certain items, whenever you transact in, you cannot hold the traded item. If you exchange food for food, or money for money, or money for food, there must be like a mutual submission on the spot while contracting on the table. If we exchange money, for example, I give you the money, I give you the American dollars, you give me the Jordanian dinars immediately. Okay? If I give you the American dollars and you give me the Jordanian dinars tomorrow, Salat al-Fajr, that will be counted as what? As riba al-nasi'ah. Riba al-nasi'ah, riba of delay. You hold the traded items for a certain period of time. If you delay the submission of any kind of food or any kind of money, this will be counted as riba al-nasi'ah. Those are the two transactions who are subject to riba. We have aqd al-qard, the loan contract, and the sale contract. What does it mean? It means that if you are involved in a lease contract, do not even worry about riba. Because lease contract is not subject to riba to start with. It does not have any sale involved. It does not have any loan involved. You're good to go. Do not even worry about riba. Now, riba of increase. How does riba? Well, usually actually is the technical translation of riba. How does usually affect the loan contract? As I said, if you lend $1,000 and you make it clear that the 1,000 has to be paid 1,100, that is riba al-fadl and riba al-nasi'ah at the same time, because the money has to be paid back immediately. There is a delay here. So that is riba al-fadl and riba al-nasi'ah. And if you give 1,000, okay, for 6 months grace period, no interest, and after the 6 months there will be some consequences or late fees, it will be counted as riba. So riba of increase can affect the loan contract two different ways. It could be stipulated, it could be incorporated from the first day of the issuance of the riba. Here is the well-known fiqh rule or قاعدة فقهية: كل قرض جر نفعا فهو ربا. Any contract, any loan contract that stipulates or derives okay, derives a stipulated benefit will be counted as riba. If you lend someone, whether it is a monetary benefit or non-monetary, if you give someone money as a loan and you make it clear, a businessman, for example, asked for $10,000 loan, and you told him, okay, I will give you the 10,000. However, you need to hire my son in your company. My son is still working for a job. If you hire him, I will give you the money. Believe it or not, this will be counted as, are you looking for a job? Why you are smiling? If you hire my son, I'll give you the 10,000. Believe it or not, hiring your son will be counted as riba. كل قرض جر نفعا فهو riba. Any loan that derives or brings stipulated benefit is riba. I give you 1,000 as a loan with one condition: you give me a ride to the hotel, you invite me for a dinner. Whatever the benefit might be, monetary or non, will be counted automatically as a riba, and that is riba al-fadl. Now, riba of delay cannot affect the loan contract because it is a non-for-profit agreement. When you lend someone money, you anticipate the reward from Allah SWT. As a practicing Muslim, you do not expect any reward or return from that individual. You do not expect any riba. So riba al-nasi'a does not affect the loan contract. If you want to go with the book, as they say, according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when you exchange money for money, then there must be a mutual submission. You give 1,000, you take 1,000. Well, when you give 1,000 to someone as a loan, he cannot give it back to you immediately. Otherwise, what kind of loan contract is it? He needs sometimes to use it, right? So, riba al-nasi'a, the riba of delay, does not affect or does not prohibit loan contract, although apparently it does. But you give your Muslim brother $1,000 and you wait for a few months until you get your money back. There is no riba involved here, as long as the 1,000 is returned as is 1,000. Now the sale contract actually is different, and riba could affect the sale contract. Now, during the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, it was a very common practice to exchange commodity for a commodity. Paying money like dinar or dirham was a very common practice, but meanwhile, exchanging food for food or commodity for a commodity was a very prevailing and very common practice. So exchanging wheat for barley, or bread for rice, or rice for sugar, this was very, very common. That's why in the hadith, which is one of the foundations of the ruling of riba, which is الذهب بالذهب والفضة بالفضة والتمر بالتمر والملح بالملح, exchanging gold for gold, silver for silver, salt for salt, date fruit for date fruit. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned very, very clear conditions for this kind of exchange. Now, if you want to break this hadith into different, maybe 3 or 4 different categories, you will end up with the following. If you trade with the same category, the category is food or money, and the items under food could be barley, could be wheat, could be anything else, and the money is a category. It could be broken down to different currencies, could be American dollars, Jordanian dinar, Saudi riyal, whatever. So trading the same category and the same item, like rice, for example, or wheat for wheat, or American dollars for American dollars, you have to make sure that there is equality. Okay, you give $100 and you take $100 immediately. And you will ask a question here: what kind of business is this? Right? What kind of business? You give $100 and you take it to $100. It's a bad business. We are not making money here. Well, this is exactly what the Prophet ﷺ wants us to do. Do not extract money from the money that you have. If you want to make $10 or $20 from the $100 that you have, that's fine. You have to buy something. You have to trade. You have to produce something. You have to manufacture something. Okay, and then you sell it, you make a profit. But you cannot exchange money for money, okay, with the same item, the same currency, and you make a profit out of it. You cannot exchange date fruit, tamar for tamar, okay, and you make extra weight from that transaction. You cannot do that. Okay, do not take advantage of the need of other people. Okay. So again, exchanging money for money, the same item, American dollars for American dollars, there must be equality. That's at-tamathul. Mutual submission, at-taqabud, you give and you take. And al-hulul, the finalization, means that the transaction has to be effective immediately. We cannot exchange and say, well, starting February the 1st of 2016, the transaction will be effective. That is unacceptable. If you trade the same category, remember, category means food or money, but with the different items, like you exchange rice for sugar, for example, American dollars for Jordanian dinar. Okay, there must be taqabud, mutual submission. You cannot hold your money, you have to pay it immediately. And there must be finalization, that the transaction is effective immediately. As you see, equality is not required here. Trading in the two different categories, money and food, okay, one of the traded items has to be submitted. If we just make a word of mouth, okay, I will be selling you some date fruit, and you will be giving me the money tomorrow, 100. Well, this is just a promise. This is a gentleman agreement. Sometimes they call it memorandum of understanding, but it's not a sale contract that brings all the consequences, and the rules of the sale contract are not applicable here. So one of the traded items has to be submitted, because the Prophet ﷺ prohibited us from transacting without submitting one of the traded items. If I give you the money and I give you the food tomorrow, that will be fine. Okay, if you give me the money, I bring you the food tomorrow, that will be fine. But you cannot hold your money and I hold my food and we count it as sale contract. It is not. نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن بيع الكالئ بالكالئ. Sallallahu prohibited from exchanging or trading or selling without submitting one of the traded items. It goes without saying that if one of the items is an unuseless one, yani it's not food and it's not money, then the same rule applies here. One of the traded items has to be submitted. As I said in the beginning, usury sale or riba al-bay' is less common today than it was before. Before I move on, whenever you or before you pass a judgment on any transaction, okay, you need to find out what is or whether or not there is a sale contract or a loan contract, and if there is any charge, any extra money that has to be paid, you need to interpret. Okay, you need to reinterpret that charge and make sure it is not riba according to the fiqh definition of riba. Why I'm saying so? Because sometimes certain terms in the industry, okay, might give a different meaning than the fiqh one. I'll give you an example. In any contract, you might be obligated to pay late fees. It's not called riba, it's not interest. But from a fiqh perspective, late fees will be counted as riba. So you should not subject yourself to pay late fees, although it's not written riba, it's not written interest, it is written late fees. Well, late fees is riba. Another charge could be called overdraft charge. It's not riba, I mean, in the agreement, but actually it is riba. So late fees, overdraft charge, administration fees, service fees, revenue, profit. You read like different terms, okay, in the industry and in the contract. Some of them might be riba according to the fiqh definition of riba, and some of them might not be riba. The most important thing is to identify this charge. Is it a riba from a fiqh perspective or not? If it is riba, then it has to be avoided, even though it is called otherwise. Okay? If it is written interest in the contract, but from a fiqh perspective, it is not riba, then you can pay it. For example, I bought a car for $5,000, and the seller told me that if you want to make an installment for 1 year, okay, I have to charge you interest, $1,000. Okay, the car is his. The car is his. So instead of paying him $5,000 cash, we made an agreement that $5,000 is the price and $1,000 interest, and he insisted in writing interest in the contract. The price of the car is $1,000 plus $5,000 plus $1,000 interest because of the payment plan for 1 year. Is this contract acceptable in Islam or not? Well, it is. It is. Although it's clearly mentioned that $5,000 price and $1,000 interest. Well, it is not interest. Okay? Because I mean, this 1,000 is not interest according to the fiqh definition of, well, this is a profit or this is a part of the price. So although it is called interest in the contract, it is not interest from a fiqh person. So I can pay him $5,000 price and $1,000 interest because it is not interest. Different levels of prohibition. ربا الفضل كم بقي يا أخي معنا الوقت؟
8:45.
نعم.
8:45.
10 minutes. طيب. We said we have ربا الفضل and ربا النسيئة. ربا النسيئة actually is more prohibited than ربا الفضل. There are certain cases where the Prophet ﷺ did allow ربا الفضل. I don't think we have enough time to give example for ربا الفضل. However, ربا الفضل is prohibited because it might lead or it might mislead to ربا النسيئة. ربا النسيئة actually is the worst one. ربا النسيئة is the worst one. Nowadays, ربا النسيئة is applicable in a sense that you lend money to someone or you borrow money from the bank and you have to pay the bank more than what you have taken. That's riba al-fadl because the 1,000 will be paid 11 or 1,200, and that is riba al-nasiya because you do not pay the money immediately. You make an installment, okay, or payment plan, and the 1,000 might be returned 1,300 or 1,400. This is riba al-nasiya, which is the worst one that the Prophet ﷺ have warned us. He said in this hadith, لا تبيعوا الدينار بالدينارين ولا الدرهم بالدرهمين ولا الصاع بالصاعين فإني أخاف عليكم الرِّمَى. Do not exchange 1 dinar for 2 dinars. Do not exchange 1 dirham for 2 dirhams. Do not exchange 1 sa' by 2 sa'. Sa' is a kind of measurement for certain kinds of harvests. Okay, it's not a weight, it's just a volume. Okay. فإني أخاف عليكم الرِّمَى. Now let me ask you this. If you exchange 1 dinar for 2 dinars, is this riba al-fadl or riba al-nasiya? If you exchange it immediately, I give you 1 dinar, you give me 2 dinars. That's riba al-fadl, right? 1 for 2. And dirham bid-dirhamain, you exchange 1 dirham for 2, that's riba al-fadl. Sa' for 2 sa', that's riba al-fadl. He said, do not do that. فإني أخاف عليكم الرِّمَى. الرِّمَى means the riba, because I'm afraid that you might fall in committing riba. Well, if exchanging 1 dinar for 2 dinars is riba, then what kind of is riba al-fadl? Then what kind of riba is the other one? This one. That is riba al-nasiya. Who can help me understanding this hadith by just giving me an example? Yani how come that riba al-fadl might lead or mislead to riba al-nasiya? Who can give me an example? Yani how come that riba al-fadl, exchanging 1 dinar for 2 dinars, might lead to riba al-nasiya? Prophet ﷺ said, do not exchange 1 dinar for 2 dinars because you might commit riba al-nasiya.
Maybe you can't pay the increase that time.
That's absolutely correct. A riba al-fadl is to exchange 1 dinar for 2 dinars. We might do it for the first time, second time with a mutual submission. And then in the third time I give you 1 dinar and you say, you know what, I do not have enough money now, give me until. He said, I'm your partner, this is $1,000, take it, but in return you need to guarantee me $3,000 every month. And they call it in our culture sharik and darb, like a business partner. Well, you are not a sharik, you are not a partner, you are a lender here because you guarantee your money and you guarantee your profit. You cannot guarantee your profit in Islam. You cannot. You see? So they call it sharik and darib, like a business partner, thinking that they are doing it correctly, but they are doing it wrongly. If you pay the $100,000, you cannot guarantee it. If there is a profit, you will enjoy it. If there is a loss, you will be losing your money. Now there is a well-established qaida by the Prophet ﷺ. Qaida means fiqh maxim. Prophet ﷺ said, al-kharaju bil-daman. Al-Kharaj bil-Daman means profit follows liability. Very simple one. Profit follows liability. If you want to make money, that's fine, but you have to take the liability, okay, the risk. There is nothing called risk-less transaction in Islam or risk-less profit in Islam. Okay, you take the $100,000, you jeopardize it. I mean, you might make a profit, you might not. If there is a profit, ahlan wa sahlan, you just take your share. But what if there is no profit? What if they run out of business? Your partner, you will be incurring the loss. Now, because of the liability, you are entitled for profit. You can make profit whenever there is an actual real net profit after the end of the business course, like every year we sit down together and find out how much is the net profit after deducting everything. Then if there is a profit, you take your share. But what if there is no profit? Well, there is no profit, there is no money. Back to the point. Asking for a profit will convert the lender into a business partner. You cannot ask for $3,000 profit every month because if you want 100,000. You cannot. However, you can ask for what is called they call it on-account payment, because you are expected to make maybe, let's say, $12,000 toward the end of the year. So from now you can ask for $2,000, but this is not your profit. This is on account. You take it subject to modification toward the end of the year. If there is a $12,000 profit your share, you have taken them already. If there is no profit, then with all due respect, you have to pay the money back. So asking for profit will convert the lender into a business partner. In this case, the loan is not guaranteed. Because basically there is no loan. This is my contribution toward the business. This is my share. I'm now becoming your business partner. I'm not lending you money. That's why, since it is not a loan, then the money itself is not guaranteed. The bottom line here is that guaranteeing the loan and its profit is riba. You go to Chase and you apply for an investment loan or business personal loan, you take $5,000, it has to be paid back $5,500. Okay, by law, their amount, the $5,000 is guaranteed. By law you have to pay it back, and the $500 on top of it is guaranteed as well. So the loan and its interest is guaranteed by law, right? In Islam, we do not have such an agreement. If it is a loan, then the loan itself is guaranteed, but there is no profit. If it is a partnership, then neither the profit nor the capital itself is guaranteed. Okay, it has to be like a sort of risky transaction. You want to take money, that's fine, but you have to take the risk. Okay, I think are we done with the time, right? Starting tomorrow, inshallah, we will be going through the practical examples, as I said in the beginning. Now I will be opening the floor for question and answer. Please ask me within what we have already explained. Not ask me about mortgage or credit card or debit card or finance, because this inshallah will be our topic for tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum.
My name is Abdullah.
Abdullah?
Yes.
Hayyakallah. I like your smile, mashallah. You have a beautiful smile.
The question I have is to actually is, if I have understood you correctly, you said, if I have understood you correctly, that you said, let's say for example, if there is a house, right, for sale for $1,000, and if I'm planning to purchase that and I don't have that full $100,000 with me, now if the seller is willing to sell it to me for $110,000. Actual market value for that house is $100,000, but the seller will be selling it to me for let's say for example $110,000. The reason being because we made a deal for I'll be paying him back $110,000 equal payment for 60 months. So current market value $100,000.
That is halal, akhi. That's halal because he is the owner of the house. Be careful. Okay. Now being charged $1,200 for $1,000 through the mortgage company is not halal, because the mortgage company is lending you the money. They are not the owner of the house. while financing with the landlord directly does not involve any third party. So the homeowner himself, the landlord, can charge you $150 instead of $100,000 for 10, 15 years, whatever. But the mortgage company cannot do the same, because mortgage company has a riskless transaction. They lend you the money, and instead of paying you the money, they just pay it on your behalf to the landlord, and they just get back and charge you the 100, the original amount, plus extra money. So there is a huge difference between the two. The result might be the same, right? The 100,000 became 150. In the first time, it was a halal because it was an in-house financing between you and the landlord directly. He has taken the risk of the house already. The house is under his collateral. He is the owner of the house. He can sell it for how much he wants to sell, but the mortgage company cannot do the same. So a lot of people get confused between the two. The matter of fact, this kind of misconception had been raised even during the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, ذلك بأنهم قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا. Some people said that charging riba, okay, or paying riba and selling are the same. Okay, sale contract is like a riba contract. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَ. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted sale contract and prohibited riba. So although the result might be the same, that the 100,000 became 150, but the mechanism and the way that has been done makes a huge difference. Consequently, change the rule of the transaction.
Can I have any sisters have a question?
You have a 5-year contract.
Can you speak up, please, sister?
Yeah, if you have a 5-year contract, a loan that you sign, and at the end of every year, like you say right in the beginning, at the end of year 1, you pay, say like $2, at the end of year 2, you pay $3, like you write ahead of time how much you pay at the end of each year, and that value increases every year. Is that okay?
Is it a loan contract?
A loan, yeah.
Does the total amount paid back is equivalent to the original amount that you have borrowed or more?
It would be, if it's equivalent, is that okay?
If it is equivalent, yes. It means that you have borrowed 1,000 and you pay it back 1,000, regardless of the details. You pay in the first year such and such amount, and then second year more or less. I mean, all these details have nothing to do with the permissibility of the transaction. However, you have to make sure that you have borrowed 1,000 and you pay it back. You pay it back 1,000. If it is more than 1,000, then that's riba.
But what if you decide in the beginning of the contract that the end value will be like 200,000 because you're factoring in inflation and all of that stuff?
No, inflation is not to be considered. If you are the lender and you want to stay in the safe side, you might lend your money via like American dollars, because it's a very stable currency, and the inflation is very nominal comparison to some other currencies. Okay, if it is done like for a huge amount of money, it could be done via gold, actual gold. I mean, just to keep, because gold, as you know, it has an intrinsic value. So you give someone like 3 ounces of gold, and he has to pay it back to you 3 ounces, regardless of the price of the gold. You did not lend him cash money, you lend him gold, 3 ounces of gold. It has to be paid back 3 ounces of gold. I mean, this is just to stay in the safe side. You're going to walk a lot tonight, right?
Thank you for all the information.
Sure.
It's a lot of good information. I wanted to ask about what you were mentioning about late fees, because I don't know if I completely understood it, but from what I can gather, well, so let me go back a little bit. You were saying like in situations where you're negotiating, and then you're saying, okay, over a certain time you can pay X amount. Even so, like say, if you pay now, you'll pay $1,000, but if you pay in a year, then it'll be $1,500.
Yes.
That is because that price is fixed over time, right?
That's the opportunity cost or the time cost.
Okay. So with the late fees, say just for like in the case of like
No, there is a difference because the late fees is charged after the amount is fixed. You receive like a utility bill. Okay, your water or your electricity is $150. This is the actual use. This is the actual price of the service that you enjoyed for one complete month. Now, if the 150 has to be paid more than that, then that is riba. Because again, from a fiqh perspective, you owe the $150 the utility company. This is the actual, as if they have lended you the money. It's not a loan, but you owe them the amount. So the 150 has to be paid 150. If you intentionally delay your payment until you pay late fees, then you are committing a sin here. Just make sure that you pay on time before the due date.
So how about the person? Even though this was agreed on in a contract?
Yeah, not every single agreement between people is acknowledged by our deen, because people might make a wrong agreement, haram agreement. So not everything pre-agreed upon or pre-arranged between the two contracting parties is halal. People might do something wrong.
But you didn't borrow the money from them. This is a product that they're giving you.
It takes the same rule of a loan contract. If you still remember, Akhi, let me show you this slide. Increase awarded to one party in a sale or a service. If you want to categorize the utility bill, is it a sale contract or service? It's a service. So any kind of increase on top of the actual amount that you receive will be counted as riba. You did not borrow the money from them, I agree with you, but you owe them the money. Whatever you owe the other party will be interpreted Islamically from a fiqh perspective as a loan contract. It takes the exact role of the loan contract.
So you add on here.
So in that it's both the receiver and the giver?
What do you mean?
Receiver in the sense the utility company itself. And
What about it?
and the customer, right?
Well, I mean, to start with, if there is like an Islamic finance system implemented soundly, there must be no late fees to start with. There are some other ways for the company to secure their money. They can ask for a guarantor, they can disconnect the service, they can charge you late fees in a different way, as long as it is equivalent to the actual amount that they pay for the collection agency, for example. It could be justified, but they cannot take it. It has to be paid to a third party who, go after you to get the money. You see, but they cannot take it as a late fees.
Because what I've read in some of the contracts, and I know this is kind of getting picky, yeah. What I've read in most contracts is that the late fee is over a period of time. So, say your payment is due on day one, but you did not pay before that day one. So you'll get a late fee between second day into the next billing cycle.
Whatever the detail might be, there must be no late fees. But why? Before I forget, we have some pamphlets about Al-Huda University if you want to get more information about the university. Okay? Do not worry, it's not a pledge card. I'm not raising funds. So خذها ولا تخف. Yeah, please.
Your sisters have a question.
For the sisters, yeah.
Hold on.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
time.
Can you show me your beautiful eyes, please? I cannot see them. Can I take off the hood? Yeah, thank you.
The question regarding your comment earlier on auto loan, you said it's legal, worth about 5,000. If you agree on the 6,000, it's legal.
Yes.
Is it for the private party only, or if you may deal with GM dealership for? Is that the same?
Are you financing with the car dealership? Are you financing with the car dealership?
If you finance through car dealership, it's the same as you financing the private party. Would that be legal or?
Well, if you are financing with the car dealership, say GMC, for example, the GMC finance department is an independent party, legally, administratively, financially. It has nothing to do with the GMC car dealership, legally speaking again. So if you are financing with them for a certain APR, that would be counted as riba because you are borrowing money from them, although they hold the same name. GMC Finance, GMC car dealership, Toyota Finance, Toyota dealership. Legally speaking, financially, they are completely independent. To the extent that if one of them like filed bankruptcy, for example, the other one can just operate, as if nothing happened. So financing with the finance department of the car dealership with a certain APR will be counted as riba because you are borrowing money with interest.
So purchasing car from private individual is legal, but from the GMC is not legal. That's it.
Well, in-house financing means that the owner of the car is the one who's financing for you. See? But if you finance it through a third party, the third party is not buying the car and then selling it to you, which is the Islamic way of doing it. He just lends you the money. That's a riskless transaction. Alaikum salam.
Question about the justification for interest in this country a lot sometimes is based on inflation. How do we as Muslims look at inflation?
The justification of the prohibition of interest is to prevent people from financially taking advantage or abusing one another. Now, in a very, very specific cases, it might make a lot of sense to permit interest. You borrow $1,000 from Chase, okay, for business purposes. You make $100 profit. You pay a part of the profit to Chase, that is $20 or $25 out of the 1,000, and you take the 75. It's a win-win situation. Everybody is happy. Well, that's correct. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibits something, He prohibits it for the general benefit of the whole society. In some particular cases, okay, it might happen that you borrow $1,000, okay, a business loan, and you lose the $1,000 in full. Now, based on what? How can we justify that the bank is still going after you, asking for the 1,000 and for the 5% interest? Well, you have lost everything. They do not care. Is that correct? So it might happen sometimes. Now, in the contrary, you might borrow $1,000 and you make $9,000 profit. It might happen. Now, based on what you enjoy, the $9,000, and the bank takes only 5%. So there is always injustice in applying interest. And again, for a certain case, for a certain individual, it might be a win-win situation. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not legislate for a certain individual. He legislates and regulates for the whole society. أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. He knows Azza wa Jal that when riba is implemented in a society, a lot of financial injustice will be taking place. That's why He just made it clear that riba is haram. Inflation has nothing to do with riba. As I explained, if it is for charitable purposes, cooperative purposes, someone wants $5,000 for 1 or 2 or 3 months just to pay for his rent, and then he will be paying it back to you. There is no inflation to start with, within 2 or 3 months. And whenever you give him the money, you give him the money exclusively for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even if there is like a trivial loss, okay, that is 0.1% inflation, you should not care because you are looking for something greater than that, which is the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it comes to business, to start with, do not lend him the money, as we already explained, unless you get involved in a partnership with him. So you make money in the same way that he makes money. Assalamu alaikum.
Brother, about the Islamic bank.
Can you please speak up?
Okay, to buy a house with Islamic way.
Yeah, I will discuss it tomorrow, inshallah.
So, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Jazakumullah. You just answered the brother question. You said the reason that riba is forbidden is because to prevent that people abusing each other.
Right.
Okay, you also mentioned a few minutes ago about the intrinsic value of a dollar, the dollar bill, or the currency, the paper currencies. the fact that most of the paper currency have no intrinsic values, only gold and silver. So could we consider that as a riba?
Yes, because with the currency that you have, you can buy gold with it that has intrinsic value. So it does not have intrinsic value by itself, but it has the general approval by the whole society and by the authority to be utilized as a currency. Very simple example with the currency with the sheets of papers that you have in your pocket, you can buy gold that has intrinsic value. So it does have value. It's not intrinsic value, but it does have value. It is the general acceptance, al-qabul al-am. You can use the dollar to buy whatever you want, right? Including gold. So it does have value. Now.
Here, whatever the understand is that the instrument that's used in the West is for calculating the interest rate. What is the Islamic equivalent for calculating this interest rate? How do we, most of us, even the Islamic banking, they rely on the bank, on this interest rate that's...
The Islamic mortgage companies or the Islamic banks rely on the interest rate for competition purposes. For competition purposes. If the interest rate in the market is 4% and they set their profit 4% or 3.5%, there is nothing wrong with it. As long as they generate their money in a halal way, connecting it or linking it with the interest rate is fine. They want to compete with other institutes. What's wrong with that?
So as a follow-up question to that, let me ask.
Assalamu alaikum. So two questions, they're both similar. So one is, if you go to AAA or a bank and you give them some money in exchange for foreign currency, and then they say, come back 3 days later, is that riba nasiya? And also,
if you are able to exchange on the spot, then you have to exchange on the spot. You take the money and you give the money. If you are doing what do you call it? Forex, what was that?
Wire transfer.
What was that?
Wire transfer.
Wire transfer, yeah. Like if you do a currency exchange online, for example, and your client is in Australia, it is impossible to go with the mutual submission because of the distance, because you have to transact through a third party. So it takes sometimes to wire the money. So it is halal.
And so the same thing for if you buy something, if you buy like a gold coin online, you pay the money and then after a while it comes to you, is that also riba?
As long as it is done as soon as possible, there is no intentional delay, yes. Because handling the money immediately is impossible. I mean, you buy it online, so it takes some, sometimes for processing.
A lot of the dealership right now, they're giving you the option of buying the interest in front and add it to the value of the car, for example.
We'll discuss it tomorrow, inshallah.
I have a question about, to clarify, if I wanted to take a loan, $5,000, and I find somebody that would let me borrow it, and if I pay it back within 6 months, there's no interest. And if I go beyond that, there is interest, and I plan to pay it back within 6 months, and I do. Is that permissible?
It is permissible only and only as needed. If you need it, yes, you can go with this option as long as you make arrangement. You are almost positive that you can pay it in full before the due date. Again, if there is no other alternative and you need it, you can go for it. Well, you go with the other alternative. That does not have late fees, yeah. Alaikum salam.
There's a non-profit organization called Habitat for Humanity, and they offer to build houses for people with no interest, and you can pay with installments. But one of their conditions is that you have to volunteer for a certain number of hours with the organization. Is that
you have to what?
Volunteer with the organization.
With your time.
You have to work with them.
When it comes to contracts, I cannot answer until I see the contract in front of me. I have to read the whole contract from A to Z, like to pass a fatwa or judgment on it. any description of the agreement would not be sufficient. This is my experience. I'm sorry.
So
we'll answer it tomorrow, inshallah. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I understand the difference between the selling, someone owns something and someone doesn't. But when we look at like companies that say companies that own homes and they say they will finance it themselves, is there any indicators that we can look to see how we can determine if they actually are the owners and it's like one person?
Owner contract, you mean?
Like if they own the item that they're selling, is there any indicators that we can look for? Like what you have, like you mentioned the GM, even
okay. Are you talking about a company like construction company who who build houses and they sell them?
Yes.
Well, when you buy a house from a construction company, the construction company has an affiliate mortgage company. Okay, they claim that the mortgage company is owned by the construction company 100%. By law, the mortgage company cannot be the exclusive owner of the construction company because of the conflict of interest. Who's going to do the appraisal, for the house? The mortgage company. And the mortgage company actually, they have an interest to make the value of the house as high as possible. So there is a clear conflict of, because of that, by law, to the best of my knowledge, the mortgage company that is affiliated with the construction company cannot be the exclusive owner. They can own up to 70%, if I recall. This means actually that the 30% is owned by a third party. And going with the mortgage company of that construction company means that you are borrowing money from the one who owns a 30%. So still there is an interest-bearing loan. If it is proven, I have heard from some people, but actually I couldn't verify that. If it is proven that the mortgage company is exclusively 100% owned by the construction company, go for it. Even if you have to sign sale contract and loan contract, interest-bearing loan contract, there is no contract. I'm sorry, there is no riba. Just go ahead and because there is no loan to start with.
So it has to be in the contract where they say that they are 100% owners. Like, how do we find that out?
I don't think they specify that, but you need to verify. You need to verify the ownership. Again, to my knowledge, by law, they cannot be the exclusive owner of the mortgage company. Want to stop? Feel
one last question. You mentioned about the ownership of the house. Like what about in the bank? He said, okay, I'm going to go and buy the house and then let's sell it to you. Is that?
They do not do it in the US.
They don't do it? No.
By law, they cannot do it because the bank or mortgage company is just a mortgage company. Their job is to finance, is to lend money with interest. If it happened, which is not the case here, that a conventional bank, Chase, is allowed to buy a house and possess it, like hold the title as an owner, not as a lien holder, and then sell the house to me again, going with Chase is halal. But the question here, do they do it? Absolutely no. By law, they cannot do it.
So no bank can own it because sometimes the bank recover a house because the owner of the house cannot pay for the house.
Oh, that's a different story. That's foreclosed houses. I'll discuss it tomorrow, inshallah, foreclosed house.
Inshallah, I think we should stop there unless you have time.
طيب, that inshallah will be enough for tonight. I will see you tomorrow after Isha, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.